Welcome, Australia. It's that time again for another podcast from the Mate team, where we try and get into your head with stuff that makes us sound smart. Sit back and relax. It's time for us to be mates. Welcome to another Let's Be Mate podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Faz. Dom.
Hey Faz, how you going?
Good, mate, good. So this is another Quickfire series, second in our series, and this one is focused on customer acquisition strategies that we have at Mate. We're going to talk a bit about the truths and the myths about customer acquisition in our world anyway, and we're going to let Dom tackle this one. Dom heads up our acquisition at Mate, and he's going to be under the hot seat. All right, let's get started. Dom, tell our loyal listeners who you are and what you do at Mate.
Well, thanks, Faz. As you mentioned, my role is Head of Customer Acquisition, so I look after or touch all things sales and marketing. My background is been in marketing for the last sort of 10 or 12 years, often in the tech space, working with brands like BlackBerry, Sony, Microsoft, a lot of activation work as well, so experiential and tech-led. Outside of work, I'm a husband and father. I've got a little boy. He's 18 months old. But yeah, we're here to talk about work today, I guess.
Yes, that we are, Dom. We can always socialise at another time, my friend. Dom, so at Mate, and personally and obviously in your role, how do you define customer acquisition?
It's a good question. I think, at the end of the day, our number one goal of a sales and marketing organisation is to attract people to our brand or to our services and then keep them. So, that acquisition starts from at the top of the funnel, and hopefully everyone's aware of the sales and marketing funnel from the very top, from awareness, so knowing about who Mate is, what we stand for and what we offer. Right through that consideration, so when people are looking for internet or mobile, that they know of Mate and they think, Mate, to consider Mate as an option, and then through to becoming one of our customers and staying for as long as we can have a relationship with that customer.
Hey Dom, and would you consider fans as an acquisition as well? I mean, I think at Mate, I think a lot of businesses, customer is a pure acquisition, but I think, would you classify acquiring fans and things like that as an acquisition process as well?
100%. I mean, there's a couple of approaches there. Some people are fans of our business and the way we do work, not necessarily a customer. Some of our customers are fans because they know that they get a great experience with us. They get good value, and our Aussie-based call centre here can, if they have someone need to chat to someone, they can ring up and chat to someone who really understands them. Those fans are our greatest acquisition piece, to be honest, because they tell the story for us, and they pass they refer other customers to our business. So yeah, fans are a big part of our business, and we want to keep those people engaged and entertained along the way as well.
What are some of the customer acquisition channels that we use at Mate at the moment?
So we're fairly digitally driven.
And what do you think that, just a bit around, why do we digitally focus more than anything?
Well, two things. It's very measurable. So we know that for X dollars spent that we can track sales and interactions, but also we're not one of the big tier one telcos, so we don't have millions of dollars to throw at sales and marketing every week and month. But those digital channels, whilst cost effective and measurable, really allow us to test and learn. And then we do add on those extra activities, so more above the line or through the line opportunities where we can to that, and that's more top of the funnel focus, where we can build our awareness to the general public and build those fans, as you mentioned, so that when it comes time for them to upgrade their internet or mobile, that they are considering Mate and then hopefully becoming a customer.
How important are business foundations to ensure that acquisition channels actually work?
Yeah, look, they're super important. I mean, you need to have a strategy to start with, and that strategy can obviously change. But if you go off, all over the place, and you've got, the left doesn't know what the right's doing, then that's a problem. But for each of those channels, you need to have a strategy, and that strategy needs to, you need to know how much you got to spend, how much you can afford to spend that on branding and versus acquisition. When that comes down to acquisition, some of our measurements are around cost per acquisition, cost per lead, even things like click-through rates and that sort of thing. But you also need to know that how you're measuring that channel, and then what your expectations are around that channel performance. Because if it is performing well, then you can you can invest more money and continue to get the sales from that channel. Alternatively, if it's not working, turn it off. And sometimes, from past experience, sometimes a channel might be working from a sales perspective, but it might not necessarily be bringing the right customer in either. Like if you're spending X dollars to get a customer, but through a specific channel that those customers aren't staying because they're potentially very price sensitive, then that channel is sort of giving you a false positive as well.
And in digital marketing, Dom, I'm going to ask this question because there's a lot of metrics that people use to understand digital marketing, particularly in the programmatic space, right? There's impressions, there's clicks, and there's sales, right? Is impressions number bullshit, Dom?
Yeah, look, it's pointless for me. I mean, if 1 million impressions happen, even clicks to a degree. I mean, there's lots of clicks recorded that don't actually land on your site, and then when they do land, they drop out really quickly. So some of those many metrics that digital provide, you have to take with a grain of salt. And at the end of the day, it all helps build your audience and build the funnel. But yeah, I think impressions is one that probably you can't put much weight on.
Oh, I agree. And I think with clicks, right, at least if they come to the site and if they didn't mean to click or do anything, at least you've got the ability to retarget them and things like that by impressions. You've heard it first here from our head of acquisition, Dom, that impressions is bullshit, people.
And I think that's probably another, you're talking about business foundations. No matter what activity you do to drive people into your site, and these days that's, our primary last click is to our site. If that site and that landing page doesn't have the information they're looking for, isn't clear, I've seen a lot of websites where you go and you just need that one bit of information, but no matter where you look, it's really difficult. And we make it really easy to find that information, but we also give you the channels to then contact us and give us a call if you need more info, or live chat, or through our AI Grace, our AI bot Grace. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunity when you get to our site to find the information and then and move through the funnel there.
What is one of the acquisition channels you have tried, failed, and why? And I guess it doesn't have to be, it can be anywhere, but what are one of the places you've tried to use as an acquisition or a sales channel that just hasn't worked out for you?
Look, I think there's probably two. You mentioned programmatic before. I think looking at Mate, I'm not sure that programmatic works for a service type business. If you look more of an impulse buy product or something that you can click through and go, oh yeah, I actually need one of them, buy, it's a few dollars, or you can get it shipped to you, whatever. But when you've got to actually make a conscious decision to sign up with someone, make a commitment, even though we have no contracts at Mate, but when you've got to make a change from your current service provider for what is now an essential service in internet and mobile, I don't think programmatic works from that perspective. And I think other things where, you have to make that call around what is a branding exercise that you shouldn't be measuring sales on, and what is an exercise that you should be expecting sales. So, for instance, TV maybe, or take that as an example, where a lot of that TV advertising is around branding and building that top of the funnel audience, but we also then see people, call into the sales team or or come online in live chat and say, oh yeah, I saw your ad. So, there's quite a blended model there, but it's about balancing that expectation internally as well, that what are we going to see direct sales from, and what are we going to see sales from potentially in 3, 6, 12 months as well.
Yeah, I think with programmatic, I think this day and age, consumers are coming a lot more savvy in regards to what we're searching for online. And if ads like that show up in an unauthentic way or in a place that doesn't make sense, it just gets ignored. And I know myself, I'm going to websites to get relevant information I want. I'm ignoring everything around it because it's not in the right place at the right time for me to take note of it. And I think, we've used a couple of major programmatic platforms in the past which just haven't worked out for me. And I'm not saying we're not saying it's wrong for everybody else, but it's something that you really need to consider and look at how you're targeting people and where, what, and how they're coming up and how people are seeing your ads.
And I think the same goes for native as well. That probably has been something that we've tried and it definitely hasn't worked. Again, I think can be a bit clickbaity sometimes, and if you've got a product which is more of that impulse purchase or low value, then I think it's probably more suited for that sort of thing.
We've spoken about channels that didn't work, Dom. Now let's talk about some channels, acquisition channels that have worked and why.
For us, I think social has been a really effective channel because it not only does it allow us to build our audience through quite detailed targeting. We can engage with that audience and really tell our story. We're not just a price per month business. We have a lot of reasons why you should come to Mate. No contracts, unlimited data, NBN, all Aussie service, and our obsession with customer experience means that we're not just a X dollars per month business. By telling that story, we start to build our fans, which we mentioned before. And, we continue to engage those fans not only means that we may bring them across the line if they're not already a customer, but if they are a customer, that they know what we're doing in the back end. They learn about our business through things like the podcast. And we continue to talk to them on a weekly and monthly basis to keep our brand top of mind with them.
I think for social, right? I mean, social, you browse. So getting ads on social makes sense because you're browsing, right? You're browsing to find out what people are doing and seeing what's happening in your community or whatever it is. And ads come up in that world, and it sort of makes sense because you're browsing, right? And I think when an ad comes up in that scenario, when you're browsing, I think it's a lot more authentic to deliver an ad in that space than in any other scenario. And that's why I think social works. But Dom, what's your view on social around Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok, for example? Do you think some are brand building and some are sales orientated? Do you think they're all brand building or they're all sales orientated? What's your feel? Or do you think you need to use all of them to make a difference?
I think depending on your audience, you need to be where they are. Yeah. So, for instance, if you had a much younger skewed brand, then Facebook is probably less of a place to be these days. We try to spread ourselves mainly focused on Facebook and Instagram, but we do try to hit the other platforms because we don't want to close off our audience. But we do have good success with those. I think Facebook from a sales perspective is interesting to say about looking. You're happy to receive an ad because it's probably a strategy we've taken over the last couple of months is to create content that's a little bit more engaging and a little bit more, to your point, authentic and a bit, having a bit more fun than a static ad that says, this is how much you have to pay per month for our service. So, we want to engage people, but then give them an opportunity to not only learn about us and then come through and be one of our customers as well.
Yeah, and in my experience, I think Facebook does everything, and Facebook is the one that creates the sales. I think. I mean, I think they all work together, but I think it's Facebook that creates sales ultimately. And so, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Facebook's dead," or I've got Snapchat now, or I've got these other things. I think ultimately they all work together, and Facebook is the one that actually delivers sales.
And that's for the time being. Like, who's to say? If you look at the growth of particularly TikTok this year through sort of lockdowns and pandemics. Who's to say that as those apps mature, that they don't become a bit more transactional? But then you get into a tricky situation where, TikTok's their line from an advertising perspective is don't make ads, don't make TikTok. So you actually have to meet the audience on their own terms as well, which is
very valid.
A big shift change, I guess, as a marketer to go, well, we've got some very specific things that work, and we know how to talk to that. But to then go and start to create content that's completely different to what we're used to, that's a big challenge to sort of step forward to as well.
To end our quickfire session, Dom, what is some advice that you would leave or give to other people who manage customer acquisition in their business? People that maybe haven't gone to market yet, or people that are having challenges trying to find customers. In your experience and what you've learned today, not just at Mate, but in other businesses, what are some of the key things that you would say to look at?
Sure. I think being authentic is probably number one. People can see bullshit very quickly. Probably being open to any opportunities and any channels, at least for initial discussion, and work out if it's right for your business or your industry. But then in the flip side of that, I guess knowing when, almost fail fast, and knowing when to turn something off if it's not working for you, and not just sit there and throw money at a problem. But yeah, I think you've got to look at all the options on the table. Try new things. I know budget can be, hold people back sometimes because small businesses can't necessarily afford big ad campaigns and big creatives, but you can do things very simply. There's lots of tools out there these days. You can do it yourself with things like Canva. You got places like Fiverr and that sort of thing where you can outsource it quite cheaply. So there's probably no better time to be in business. And there's so many different routes to market, not just through digital, but even going old school for those small local businesses. Print some flyers off and drop them in people's letterboxes on the way on your walk. So, the world's your oyster, I think, as a marketer or as a business owner in 2020.
Thanks, Dom, for your insight. Hope our listeners have got a bit out of that. Now, if you're seeing this podcast posted on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, leave us a comment below and let us know if you want to hear about anything or any particular topics, and we'll be happy to add that as one of our Quickfire series topics in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Faz. It's been great.
Thanks for listening to the Let's Be Mates podcast by the team at Mate.
Search for the Let's Be Mates podcast on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and at letsbemates.com.au. Hit subscribe to get the latest episode each week.
For all your telco needs, choose a provider you can trust like a mate. Visit letsbemates.com.au, Google Mate, or call us on 13 14 13 to sign up today.
See you soon, mate.